We're reinventing you.
Mother Mary feels like the kind of movie that wants to haunt me before it ever explains itself. It does not move like a typical pop star drama. It moves like an emotional wound that never fully closed. The deeper I got into it, the more obvious it became that this story is not about fame or spectacle. It is about what happens when two people carry the remains of a broken bond for so long that pain starts to feel permanent. David Lowery builds the film around that ache. At the center is Anne Hathaway's Mary, a major pop star preparing for her next performance after a shocking incident at her last show nearly killed her. Looking for the perfect costume, Mary turns back to Sam, played by Michaela Coel, her former designer, former creative partner, and, if I am honest about what the movie is implying, great lost love of her life. That is what makes Mother Mary emotionally charged from the beginning. The movie never needs to say everything directly because it bleeds the truth through pauses, looks, and bitter cuts in conversation. Mary and Sam are framed like two people who did not just end a working relationship. They feel like two people who broke each other and kept going anyway. The film strongly suggests that what they shared was deeper than collaboration. It may never say love out loud, but it gives them the language of lovers who split apart and never truly recovered. Most of the story stays locked around their dynamic, usually inside Sam's workshop, where they circle each other through conversations about art, ambition, betrayal, memory, and the damage that still lives between them. That intimacy is the film's strength. It is not trying to bury me in plot. It is trying to trap me in a room with unfinished feelings. And that is where the strangest element enters, the red presence. Mother Mary introduces a mysterious red spirit-like force that hangs over both women and seems tied to their emotional state. On the surface, it is the clearest supernatural element in the movie, but the longer it goes on, the more it feels less like a monster and more like emotional pain made visible. Sam describes her love for Mary like a broken tooth, the kind of pain that keeps throbbing under everything else. She also explains that the red presence left her the night she saw Mary performing without her, which is also the moment she fully cut herself off from Mary emotionally. That detail turns the red force into something bigger than a ghost story. It becomes grief, heartbreak, shame, longing, and everything both women buried instead of facing. Mary sees it too. More than that, the film suggests that she may be consumed by it, or at least by what it represents. The red force comes to her and becomes part of her world, transforming heartbreak into exhaustion, numbness, and depression. The smart choice here is that the film never locks down a single explanation. I can read the red presence as a literal supernatural force, but I can also read it as a poetic manifestation of emotional devastation. Either way, it feels more like pain that was never processed and finally became physical. That is why the relationship between Sam and Mary matters so much to understanding the ending. Mother Mary is not building toward a romantic reunion. It is building toward emotional release. The film keeps returning to the idea that these two women cannot move forward until they face what they still mean to each other. Their separation is treated with the weight of a breakup. Sam takes Mary, replacing her with another designer like a betrayal that cut into her sense of self. Mary turns her own pain into cold distance. One of the movie's biggest unanswered questions is what really happened when Mary nearly died. As details slowly come into focus, the film reveals that Mary saw the red spirit during a recent performance while standing on an elevated platform above the crowd. She pulls back from it, but later admits to Sam that she is not even sure whether she realized how close she was to the edge. Then she falls and ends up hanging above the audience after her red costume catches around her neck. That sequence opens the darkest reading in the film. Did Mary try to kill herself? Was it intentional? Or was the red presence pushing her toward the edge, amplifying feelings she was already too exhausted and isolated to control? The movie refuses to simplify that moment, and I think that is exactly right. Earlier scenes show Mary emotionally disconnected from her work and the world around her. Later, she quietly admits to Sam that she still thinks about suicide. That confession is devastating because it confirms the darkness is real whether the red spirit exists literally or symbolically. By the end, Mother Mary does not offer easy healing, and it definitely does not force Mary and Sam into a neat reconciliation. They do not ride off into a romantic future. In fact, the film almost suggests they may never see each other again after this encounter. What they do achieve is more mature and more affecting. They reach a place of recognition by finally facing the emotional force between them. By naming it and surviving it together, they create a moment of catharsis that neither could have reached alone. That is the real function of the red spirit. It externalizes what they have been avoiding. It drags the truth into the room. And once they confront it, the film can finally allow Mary to do the one thing she may have needed all along: apologize. Mary's apology and Sam's willingness to meet her in that moment turn their pain into something they can carry without letting it control them. The final meaning feels rooted in that idea. Mother Mary is about how unresolved love can linger inside people long after the relationship itself has ended. It is about how grief does not disappear just because life keeps moving. Sam and Mary have both moved on in a practical sense, but neither had truly processed the emotional collapse that shaped them. By confronting each other, they finally confront themselves. That is why the film feels like the ultimate breakup story, but not in the obvious way. It is not interested in revenge, perfect closure, or getting the couple back together. It is interested in emotional survival after the rupture. Sam has built walls, sarcasm, and distance. Mary has buried herself inside performance, image, and withdrawal. Both are visionaries in their own fields, yet both seem unable to connect honestly with other people. I also think that is why the film keeps the red presence from becoming purely malicious. Even at its darkest, it feels like an extension of what is already inside them. The enemy is not some outside evil. It is the unresolved pain they carried into every room after they fell apart. So when Mother Mary ends, I do not see two women getting everything they wanted. I see two women finally saying what they were supposed to say years ago. I see them facing the ghost they made together, accepting that some relationships do not return, and realizing that peace is not the same thing as reunion. That is what stayed with me the most. Mother Mary is not asking whether love survives the breakup. It is asking whether the people inside that breakup can survive it, learn from it, and still become whole afterward. By the end, the answer seems to be yes, but only after pain is dragged into the light, beneath the pop star imagery and supernatural ambiguity. This is a story about two women who were once everything to each other and now have one last chance to tell the truth. Not to restart, not to rewrite the past, just to finally face it. If this kind of emotionally haunted storytelling is what you want more of, this movie is going to leave a mark. And if you have your own reading of that red presence, I have a feeling a lot of people are going to see something different in it. Until the next one, stay close to the stories that do not give up their meaning all at once.